Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 1990s Represent. We're still in our sixth cycle of 1999 talking about a movie. In this episode, we're talking about Cruel Intentions. I want to say I watched this movie, again, obviously watched it again recently for this video, but prior to that, I remember watching it, I think it was in 2019, when I was watching my way through most of the movies featured in Brian Rafferty's book, Best Movie Year Ever. And that book is all about just the kind of classic movies that were released in 1999. 1999 just has an incredible lineup of movies that came out that year. It's kind of mind boggling to kind of think that all these movies, these classics, came out within the same year. So like that book covered movies like The Matrix, Fight Club, obviously Cruel Intentions, Star Wars Episode 1, um, movies like The Sixth Sense, I think I already mentioned Fight Club, but American Beauty, just tons of incredible films all released in the same year. And this movie, Cruel Intentions, was featured in that book as well. So I remember reading through that book and then watching the movie initially for that, and then obviously watching it again recently for this video. I have some notes here about it. Actually, I also found my old notes from when I covered that on, I think I had another series for that, but I found my old notebook that actually has my initial notes from when I watched it in 2019. But we have my notes here for Cruel Intentions here, so as we get to this. So Cruel Intentions was first released March 5th, 1999. It is based on the French novel Les Lions Dangerous or Dangerous or Dangerous Liaisons for that. Initially, it came out to kind of mixed reviews, but now it's kind of considered to be a cult classic. Apparently, I didn't know this until doing my research for this particular video, but Ryan Philippe and Reese Witherspoon were dating when this movie was in production, and I think shortly after the film was released, they were actually married. They've since divorced, I believe. But yeah, that was kind of interesting because, like, watching this, doing my research, and then it was like, okay, like, so they actually have really good chemistry, and that's probably because their real life relationship, they were maybe like playing off of that when they were doing their acting. So they were, I think they met like a year before they started filming this, and then they were married, I think, in June of 1999, so just a few months after this film was released. Sarah Michelle Gellar is incredible in this, and this was kind of a movie against type for her, because this movie she plays a kind of like very wicked kind of character, and she was kind of known for playing like good characters, like good guys, like on Buffy and things like that. So this allowed her to explore kind of like other aspects of her like acting that she hadn't really got the opportunity to do prior to that. So kind of against type for her. It's very similar to Nev Campbell in Wild Things, where Nev Campbell, I think I was on Party of Five before that movie, and then when she did Wild Things, she was kind of a villainous character as well, or at the very least, a very morally ambiguous kind of character. So that movie was against type for her as well. So it allowed Nev Campbell to kind of explore like other aspects. Same thing with Sarah Michelle Gellar in this movie. And this movie, Cruel Intentions, often gets compared to Wild Things. Like what movie's better? I can't really say. I think I do prefer Wild Things a little bit more. I like the setting of Wild Things a little bit better, like Florida, like the swamps and all that kind of add a different like level of atmosphere to the movie. Cruel Intentions is all set kind of in very like high society New York, like Manhattan, and kind of the outside kind of this area, outside areas of the city. It's very, like I said, very high society. While Wild Things explores both the high society aspect with Denise Richards' character, but also the kind of like poor areas with Nev Campbell's character. Wild Things, I think, has the overall better like story because it's basically a mystery. It Once you watch it one time though, you kind of know all the twists. But Cruel Intentions is also really good, so I can't really say if one is better than the other. I can just say I think I prefer Wild Things very slightly to Cruel Intentions, but Cruel Intentions is also just incredibly good. It's like basically like they're within like a point or two of like they're pretty much even for me, but I think I just slightly edge out Wild Things in my opinion. The soundtrack to Cruel Intentions is pretty good as well. Actually, just pull that up here. So yeah, the soundtrack is quite good. Let me actually just pull up the track list on the soundtrack. So the soundtrack has 14 tracks on it. Track 1 is Every You, Every Me by Placebo. Then you have Praise You by Fatboy Slim. That actually came out as a 1998 album. I think I covered that on the 1998 series. Track 3 is Coffee and TV by Blur. Then you have Bedroom Dancing by Day One. You have Colorblind by Counting Crows. You have Ordinary Life by Kristen Berry. Coming Up From Behind by Marcy Playground. You have Secretly by Skunk Anasazi. Then you have This Love by Craig Armstrong. What else we got? That one. You have You Can Make a Killing by Amy Mann. You have Addictive by Faithless. Trip on Love by Abra Moore. Yeah, next after that you have You Blow Me Off by Brave Jr. And closing it out, we have Bittersweet Symphony by The Verve. And I will say the use of Bittersweet Symphony in this film is just like chef's kiss. Just an incredible use of that particular song. Probably the best use of that song in maybe any movie. Don't know how many movies that song has actually been used in, but they use it perfectly here at the end of the movie because it just kind of the song just builds up and builds up and builds up. And just the kind of the use of it and how it like goes to like basically like we'll get to it when we get to the plot, but like, it's just a perfect use of that song for this movie. And the movie was very financially successful, so it cost like $10.5 million to produce the film, and it ended up grossing like $76 million. So even if you go with the 2.5 multiplier rule to see if a movie's profitable, so it would basically have to make $25 million to be completely profitable, factoring in like marketing and advertising and all that. So even then, it basically made like it made $76 million off of essentially needing to make $25 million. So it did very, very well financially. We're going to close that one, and we're now going to get into the plot of this film. So again, like I said, it's based on the novel Dangerous Liaisons, and the whole premise of the film essentially is it's Sebastian, and I think Catherine is Ryan Phillippe's character and Sarah Michelle Gellar's character, and they are step brother and step sister, and they basically just enjoy ruining people's lives for fun. So, beginning of the film, it is Sebastian in a therapy session, talking to his therapist, and he gets a book. And the therapist, like, he talks to her. He gets like the book from her. And beginning of the movie is just basically a mirror. Like they're just driving into the city or whatever it is. It's all set in New York. And he's talking to his therapist. His therapist gives him a copy of the book. The therapist's mother calls the therapist later, saying that she's upset over some basically like nude images of her that have been put online. And she basically says like, well, this person they said they wanted to photograph me, and I have like really great legs. And Sebastian had mentioned that to the therapist as well. So the therapist puts two and two together that it's Sebastian that is the one that leaked these images online. And he's just basically just doing this for fun. He takes the copy of the book and like throws it in the trash. He goes back home, and Sarah Michelle Gellar, Catherine's character, is there talking to I think it's like Selma Blair's character. And Selma Blair, like I think it's Cecile's mother, is basically wanting Cecile to kind of shadow Catherine so she can get into like a good school and all this stuff, because Catherine is very high society, and she's like, hey, this is a person you should like emulate, basically. But spoilers, probably not. So she takes Cecile under her wing, but it is secretly a revenge plot for Catherine, because her boyfriend broke up with her and then started going out with Cecile instead. So it's this kind of long game to kind of ruin Cecile's life as well. And then the main plot of the film, it comes to fruition where there is a new school like headmaster, and the headmaster's daughter, who is Annette, I believe, is played by Reese Witherspoon. And the goal is basically to get her to fall in love with Sebastian and sleep with Sebastian. So they make a bet. The bet is if Sebastian can't get that done, Catherine's going to take his like vintage Jaguar, and then if he does succeed, Catherine will sleep with Sebastian because he basically says, I'm the only person that you really can't be with, and it drives you nuts. So they make their bet, and I think Annette is staying with Sebastian's aunt, who is played by, I think it's Louise Fletcher, who I totally forgot was in this movie from because it's been like 5 years since I've seen it. So obviously from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Obviously, if you're into Star Trek, Kai Wynn on Star Trek Deep Space Nine. She plays Sebastian's aunt. And the family dynamics are a little bit weird because it's stepbrother, stepsister. So this aunt is not necessarily related to Sarah Michelle Gellar's character. So, but the problem is Sebastian's reputation kind of precedes him. Somebody has warned Annette about his kind of behavior. So, and also, I believe Cecile's mother has also warned her about Sebastian's behavior as well. So this kind of throws a wrench into Sebastian's plans because now Annette is already his reputation is already known, and he basically finds out who mentioned this to her, and it is one of her friends. His friend is this football player who is secretly gay. So basically, he walks in. There's a plan where he's talking to his friend. He's like, well, the guy's coming back for this year's like college thing, or like it was like high school or college or whatever it was, and he's gonna be playing football. So like he's obviously wanting to get together with me. This is Sebastian's friend he's talking to, and Sebastian basically like walks in on them in their bedroom, and he's got like a camera. And he's like, hey, like I'm gonna blackmail you. I want you to tell me like who like is telling Annette about me, and if you don't, I'm going to expose your sexuality to like everyone basically. So his friend starts working with him to find out kind of like who has been telling Annette about his kind of like reputation or what have you. While this is going on, Catherine is trying to ruin Cecile's life by basically making her like more promiscuous and things like that. So she's like practices kissing her at like a park. She then is taking cello lessons from Ronald, and she is trying to get like her in trouble with her mom for like hanging out with Ronald as well. Apparently, like Ronald like writes her like love letters, and then Catherine's like, well, give me some of those. I want to see these letters. And then they basically get Ronald fired from being her cello instructor. So that's like one step of ruining her life essentially. And then she basically convinces her to sleep with Sebastian as well. So then she starts like sleeping with Sebastian, which then eventually like is just kind of like basically they're just trying to give her a bad reputation as well. At one point, Sarah Michelle Gellar's character is like saying that she is tired of pretending to be like just like the perfect person like all the time, and like she really can't be herself. That's kind of her whole thing, and that she has a cross in like a necklace that has like cocaine in it that she's constantly using. But the problem, like, so Sebastian starts hanging out with Annette more. The problem is now this bet, he's actually starting to fall in love with Annette, even though that wasn't necessarily the intention of the bet. So what happens then is he is hanging out with her more, and he eventually does convince her to sleep with him, but then he starts having second thoughts and he leaves. And then he basically is like, hey, I can't do this. And then she leaves his aunt's house and is going into the city. He tracks her down, and they end up sleeping together then. So basically, technically, he's won the bet at that point, and the bet at that point is kind of done, even though he's like not necessarily interested in sleeping with Sarah Michelle Gellar anymore. But she's basically like, well, you know what, like you need to like break up with her because like basically like if you don't, you're going to ruin both your reputations. So he basically ends up breaking up with Annette, which ends up like essentially like breaking her heart. But then basically, Sarah Michelle Gellar's character is then like, well, you know, like, well, like you did this thing, and now like I don't want to sleep with you because I don't sleep with losers. So it's basically she kind of got him to fall in love with her, and then kind of like made him break up with her. And after he basically like turns away her advances, she calls Ronald, the cello instructor, and he basically says that Sebastian hit her, and what's his name? Sebastian has this notebook that details kind of everything. So he gives the notebook to Annette, but Ronald confronts him on the street. They have a fight. Annette steps in, and she falls into oncoming traffic. It's like on the sidewalk. Sebastian gets it, like basically dives into the road to save her, but gets hit by a car, and he basically dies from the car crash. Even though I don't really think like the car crash did not look like it was bad enough to really like kill him, but they needed him. That's kind of the story. So he ends up dying. The notebook does get sent off to Annette, who I think makes copies of it because the seal's handing him out. So they have Sebastian's funeral, and Catherine, played by Sarah Michelle Gellar, is giving a eulogy at his funeral, and people just start leaving the funeral, and Sarah Michelle Gellar's character is like, "What is going on? Like, why are people just leaving this thing?" And that's when Bittersweet Symphony starts coming into play. It builds and builds and builds until you get outside of the school, where you see everybody is looking at printed up copies of Sebastian's notebook, which kind of just detail Catherine's actual like true nature. So she's this goody two shoes kind of character, but the notebook exposes her like drug use. It exposes the entire bet between him and Sebastian and his stepsister, and everybody at the school is just reading this while Bittersweet Symphony is playing and just building up and building up. And you see like one of the school people like basically like grabs her necklace, and they open it up and they discover there's like cocaine in it. So now her reputation is completely ruined as well. And then at the end of the film, we see Annette driving. I don't know if I think she's leaving the city. I don't remember what direction she was going. But she now has Sebastian's car. She has his sunglasses, and in the passenger seat of his car, it's a convertible. You see his notebook. So he sent the notebook to her. She probably got the word out, got photocopies, and then sent those to the school, because at the school you see Cecile is the one that's handing out all these notebooks. So end of the movie, basically Annette kind of, I guess, wins, but also like loses like the love of her life, essentially, because he got ran over by a car. But also then the kind of one of the villainess of the film, Catherine, gets exposed to the entire school, and her reputation is ruined, essentially. And that's basically where the movie ends. It's really, really good. It's not a very long film either, so I was able to, I think it's like less than 2 hours. I forget the exact runtime. But yeah, it's kind of a cult classic now. The acting is very good. I will definitely say Sarah Michelle Gellar is incredible in this. Reese Witherspoon is pretty good, as is Ryan Felipe Salma Blair's in this. And then, like I said, I totally forgot that Louise Fletcher was in this as well. But yeah, I would definitely recommend checking it out. It's kind of, like I said, kind of a cult classic now. Kind of came out to mixed reviews initially, but pretty good. That is going to do it for this episode. We'll be back in a few days covering a 1999 video game before we jump back into 1990 and then run our way through for our upcoming 7th cycle of this series. So, yeah, thanks again for watching. Take care. Have a good one. See ya.